Welcome to the programming series. I'm Michael Gornall. I'm a level 3 CrossFit coach, currently studying a master's in strength and conditioning, and I've been working as a personal trainer and coach in CrossFit for over 10 years. In this series, I'm going to go through how I program for clients. I'm going to use real world examples and faked avatars that I've built. I'm going to use some downloadable PDFs, some of which I've released already, some which are coming up, but hopefully you find this helpful. This is not just for coaches, this is for anyone who's interested in improving their fitness, whether it be via strength, CrossFit, gymnastics, general fitness. This is hopefully going to be helpful for everyone. Okay. Number 1, off we go. Quick tip, make sure you've got enough memory on your phone before you record and you don't spend 30 minutes rambling and you only got 15 of them. This one's going to be quick. So I actually did record one previously and I designed it as I was talking and it was just a bit too long-winded and it got fairly boring. So I'm going to try and keep this a bit more concise, a bit more to the point, and also try and make sure I explain everything thoroughly, because we're going to have this visual for the YouTube watchers and Instagrammers, and then get it out on a podcast as well. But if it does start to get a little bit confusing and you're just listening, of course, we're going to have it on video too. Okay, so we've got avatar number 1, and I'm just going to throw on the screen recording. Here we go. Okay, we've started. So we're looking at this person, and this is a classic example of someone who wants to improve their snatch, and we're going to look at their numbers on the ratios, explain why I've used them, and how I've used them for the sheet, and just get a good understanding of essentially how I program for this type of person. So this person has got 70 kilo snatch. They want to get it up to 80 kilos. Everything else in here on green is their plots, and the 80 in red is where they want to be for the snatch. And I've also put the overhead squat in red for what they need for it. So they're a little bit all over the shop, completely normal. All of us are. Nobody's in a straight line. And what have we got? Snatches at 70. They've got a big muscle snatch, big power snatch, common. What we can see as well is the jerk's a little bit low, even though the upper body pressing strength seems to be okay. Strict press is okay. Push press is really strong. Generally, bad snatchers are bad jerkers. There's a lot of similarities in those movements. Speed under the bar, being able to lock out. So it's not a surprise. They do often come hand in hand. Getting better at one does often help the other. Strong clean pull and deadlift. Lower body stuff seems okay, although the front squat is a little bit on the low side compared to where it should be. They should be snatching closer to 80 kilos relative to their back squat. So there are a few things there that jump out immediately. There's probably some type of technique thing going on. Their overhead squat is much weaker than it should be. Not much weaker, but a bit weaker. A few kilos weaker. Where it needs to be, we need to add 14 kilos. So we need to make the overhead squat a priority. You want to snatch 80, you can't overhead squat 78. You're going to need a big strength reserve to be able to do that. So it looks like there's probably a skill deficiency here, maybe some type of strength with the overhead squat. So my first point is going to be getting after the overhead squat. Next thing with these numbers, like I said, front squat's a little bit low compared to the back squat. So 120 back squat and 100 front squat. But then deadlift is okay. Deadlift is 140 to the 120 back squat, which seems quite good. But then snatch, deadlift and snatch pull are quite low. You'd expect them to be higher for someone who, has this heavier deadlift, clean and squat. Now generally, again, there might be some technical things in here. This person is not real. I made this one up, but lots of people are like this. In this example, there's probably overuse of the upper body, bit of a blanket statement, but we can assume that. Or there's a lack of tightness in the back for the pulling motions, which would explain why the front squat is a little bit lower than it is. Often with this, if I had this person, I'd ask for a video of all of their lifts for sure. You'd probably see a bit of softness in the back for the deadlift, which if you're trying to bump up your Olympic weightlifting, is not going to be beneficial. You need tight back for all of those pulls from the ground because they transfer really well to the lifts, whereas round back deadlifts, they can have a place in a different type of program. But if your weakness is pulling from the floor, then you need to tighten it up. So that can make a lot of sense. So I'm going to say the snatch pull is a priority as well, even though it's above where it needs to be for the current snatch, which is a good thing. But if we can get that going up, because we want to make that 80 kilo snatch, then that needs to be more in line with the rest of the body strengths when we're talking about the deadlift and the back squat. Those are the two main things that jump out. Okay, so now, like I said, I did talk through this as I made it before, and it was just far too long-winded. So I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more concise. So considerations, we've got main priority is the overhead squat, trying to get that up because we do want to see some big snatch increases. Squat strength with the front squat and the snatch pull, and we can see that around here. The front squat relative to the back squat is on the low side. The snatch pull relative to the deadlift, because they're sort of not the same obviously, but they share some similar qualities. We want to get that up as well. And then of course the overhead squat. Okay, let's go back to what we've got down here. So let's talk through quickly what I've put together. So it's 3 sessions a week this person's looking for. They already do 5 to 6 sessions a week. They do some CrossFit classes, amazing. So we know we don't want to just pump them with too much volume and frequency by just doing everything every day. They're probably going to do at least one of these things once a week anyway. So we do want to be cautious of that. And they want to be doing this in 45 to 60 minutes. So it's a supplementation to their CrossFit classes. Great, get that all the time. First thing is a priority session. So priority is basically what is the most important. It's going to follow a rest day. So rest days are on Sundays consistently, which is amazing because that means Monday we can get the most bang for our buck with that session. So we've gone for Monday, starting off with overhead squats. We've gone for 3 sets of 8, starting on the lighter side of intensity, 7 to 8 out of 10 effort, resting approximately 2 minutes. 3-second pause in the bottom position. We essentially want to get as much exposure as we can to that position for this person to really improve their strength and just get that adaptation that they're going to be throwing extra weight on in that position. What we don't want to do, and a big mistake that I see, is going straight into dynamic work, straight into snatch balances, tool snatches, pull unders, things that they kind of look a bit sexy, they're technically very demanding, but they don't expose you to the raw base that you need for great weightlifting or great snatching. So getting some higher rep overhead squats with a pause in there is always going to be a good place to start. So just a few sets because we need room to grow, so we don't want to smash them, and we're snatching right afterwards. Snatching, we're going into 5 sets of 4, keeping it on the higher rep side, and again keeping those pauses in there. Perform all sets as heavy as you can, maintaining a 3-second pause on the bottom, no more than 10 seconds between reps. We want to build on this. This is the start, so this is just week 1. The goal would be to bump up the intensity, so the weight on those 4s, build up to a 4 rep max, 3 rep max, 2 rep max, 1 rep max, something like that. I typically wouldn't just go straight into heavy singles or doubles. We'll throw some in there every now and then to make sure we're touching on those heavier weights. But with this person, because we want to build up the foundation of the snatch motion, we don't just want to be jumping straight in and potentially making a situation worse than it is by over-ingraining any bad habits. And then some front squats, 3 sets of 5, again 7 to 8 out of 10 effort, resting 2 minutes in between sets, staying on that higher side. That's priority day, so it's got the 3 things that we care about the most. And I've got the overhead squats in before the snatch because we do want to bump that up. We don't just want to go straight into the snatch work. Okay, Tuesday they're going to be doing the class. We have no idea what that's going to be. Wednesday we're going to go into some squat work again, back squats now. Now this is going after the volume. Generally, this is how I like to start. It's very well known in strength and conditioning or CrossFit that you do some type of base stuff to start, some higher rep work, some volume. You want to build more muscle. More muscle has much more potential for strength. It's as straightforward as that. And so we get a little bit of that in the bank for the first sort of 4 to 6 weeks, and you see a huge transfer when that later down the line goes into strength training. So building to a heavy tan, leaving a little bit in the tank, 9 out of 10 effort, and max reps at 85% after that. Again, just leaving something in the tank. So they should be seeing another set of maybe 10 to 15 reps after they've done that. Super pumped on the legs. Now then I've chosen a floating snatch ball. 4 sets of 5. Why have I done floating? Well, I'm going to assume, like I said, based on the numbers of the snatch, pull and deadlift, snatch, pull, snatch, deadlift and deadlift, relative to some of the other numbers, they're fairly strong, but that's because we can't see the lift, so I'm going to assume there's some type of round back situation. So floating snatch pull means you don't touch the weight to the ground between the reps, and it's going to force you to maintain a tighter back position. Yes, it's going to keep the intensity down, so the weight's going to be lighter, but remember, what we want is positional strength when it comes to Olympic weightlifting. We don't just want to go hammer it as heavy as possible and get strong in a position that's not actually going to help us for our snatching. So we've got 4 sets of 5. We're looking at 7 to 8 out of 10 effort, resting 2 minutes in between sets. Again, we're going to be building on it. We need room to grow. We don't want to go too much too soon. Using straps and not allowing the weight to touch the ground in between reps. Rest all class on Thursday. Now we can't make the Friday another priority session because sometimes they rest on Thursday, sometimes they do a class. So actually what we need is something that just allows them to be more consistent and get exposure to what we need them to work on without potentially over-tiring them. This could be session number 5 in a row, which is a lot. It is a lot. So we need to make sure that this isn't the session that we're trying to hammer progress. We're just trying to get them touching on what they need. Again, to build that consistency. It's the Monday and Wednesday session where we're really going to be making some money. This is just, it's sort of like the easy runs, you know? Maybe I'll stick with that another day. Okay, so snatch work. We're going to do 3 reps at between 60 and 70% every 90 seconds for 7 sets. All reps should have a clear pause in the bottom. So no distinct number for that bottom position pause, but we're still hammering that basic of making sure that we're getting the overhead squat strength in there by exposing them to that more in a dynamic way now. So it's dynamic because we're doing it with the snatches. 60 to 70%, we want it on the lighter side. We're going every 90 seconds, which is not enough to go heavy and get a full recovery. And we're doing 7 sets. This is really snatch practice. Okay, the goal here is not build to heavy or do 7 heavy triples. No, that's not gonna happen. We need to build some solid reps in the tank. And then later down the line, on that Monday session, that can start to become more of a heavier session. After that, overhead squats, again, we're going to be going for 10s. Oh, Mike, I thought the other one was the priority. Yes, it is. This is 4 sets of 10. Now, again, in the notes, you want to notice no getting to full extension at the top of the rep and always keeping a slight knee bend. This is going to force them to maintain their balance much more. It's going to have to be lighter, so we've got 50 to 60% of your 1 RM snatch, which is light. There's a good chance they might need to go heavier than that. Great, they can do it. We want it to be challenging, but we want to challenge the balance aspect. Typically, I find with these types of people, it's the balance that they struggle with the most, and that again, it just needs exposure. You need to get into that position and spend loads of time there and let your body and your brain and your muscles figure out how can they coordinate themselves to be more efficient so that you can move more weight in that motion. You don't want to get stuck just trying to go as heavy as you can from the start. So again, going for that exposure. And then Saturday class, Sunday back to rest. And then that is it for our week 1. So again, I've based this off of the ratios, what this person's shown us. They're looking to go from a 70 snatch to an 80. It's going to take some time. This is how I would approach it week 1. Week 2 would look slightly different. We'd start to build on it, but it wouldn't be crazy different. Okay, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one.